Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. According to a 2017 report by the World Health Organization, an estimated 322 million people worldwide are affected by depression. Globally, studies are showing that this number is growing, especially in adolescents. For example, research in New Zealand shows a 4 to 8% increase in depression rates for youth under the age of 15. Possible explanations for this increase include diet, obesity, physical activity, light exposure, sleep, and challenging social environments. The World Health Organization defines adolescents as individuals in the 10 to 19 years age group. Adolescence is a time of mental health risk. Fluctuations in mood and happiness are quite common. Frequent, intense emotions can create increased feelings of distress. Distress can lead to unhealthy coping behaviors. In Ontario, Canada, a high school student population survey charted the highest level of serious suicidal thinking to date at 1 in 6 youth. A significant precursor to suicidality is depression. When it comes to adolescent depression, sex and gender matter. Girls tend to experience depression with symptoms of sadness, guilt, punishment, worthlessness, lower energy, and fatigue, or more self-focused feelings. Boys have more active depression symptoms with feelings of irritability, aggression, suicidal thoughts, substance use, and think less about pleasure desires. Multiple factors are shown to contribute to the difference of depression expression between genders and sexes. Family conflicts and economics contributed 19.2% of the variance in symptoms of depression in girls and 12.4% in boys. Economics refers to family finances. Both low and average incomes have been reported to be associated with higher levels of mental illness and poor mental health. School satisfaction also made a strong contribution, 21.5% in girls and 15.4% in boys. These differences communicate a need to understand better what are the main contributors to depression amongst diverse youth, and in particular, young males. Despite these trends, access to affordable, accessible, and sufficient therapeutic services is an ongoing concern. In 2018, approximately 5.3 million Canadians reported that they had a need for a mental health service within the previous year, and only half of those surveys had reported that therapy and counseling needs were met. It is imperative that we take action now to address these rising numbers of adolescent depression incidents of youth contemplating suicide. The large-scale explosion of mobile phone usage has paved a path for its use, tackling accessibility issues. This type of intervention is called mHealth. Mobile phone-based interventions have been shown to assist with smoking cessation, medication self-administration, and promote changes to diet and physical activity. While this is promising, we need to understand the evidence for mHealth apps for adolescent depression. Our systematic search of the research literature found 25 relevant studies, published from 2005 to 2020. The range of adolescents was from age 10 to the age of 19, with many studies having more female participants compared to males. Tackling the depressed adolescent male remains a challenge to ongoing research. Our main key finding is that overall, research finds that mobile-based therapeutic interventions can decrease symptoms of depression in adolescents. We found several important caveats to this general conclusion. 1. Improvements were reported with some participants after a 3-month follow-up, with other studies reporting mental health levels at near normal when following up with the participants after the 3-month mark. Trends of prolonged cumulative abstinence from comorbid alcohol use disorder and depression were also identified in some participants. 2. Specific therapeutic actions range from self-monitoring of symptoms to more active skill building, like challenging negative thoughts using the cognitive behavioral therapy model. 3. As many of the studies do similar methods to measure depression symptoms, such as Beck's Depression Inventory 2, the Mental Health Continuum short form, and the Depression Anxiety Stress Scale, results across studies are more comparable. Specifically, symptoms that were monitored were similar between different measurements in terms of self-reports. These include things such as social withdrawal, impaired schoolwork, sleep disturbance, ability to have fun, etc. Also, some studies also captured clinician reports. Number 4, many of the articles had a high rate of participant dropout. For example, Proudfoot et al. Observed a 51.7 attrition rate for the 3-month follow-up. Interestingly, when these apps were promoted or involved in community organizations such as Indigenous centers, dropout rates were extremely low, usually under that 3% rate. A majority of study participants were of female-identifying gender or sex. There is evidence that females gravitate more towards internet-based interventions. A suggested reason for this is that males tend to need more influence from family and/or peers in order to seek support, and that seeking internet-based interventions relies more on individual motivation and choice. More research is needed on gender and sex treatment results to increase the generalizability of existing studies and to address relevant gender-specific strategies and formats that may be more motivational for mHealth. Moving forward, we have to keep asking how to best reach out and support adolescents to be involved in research studies. Youth engagement and youth participation is an important part of youth rights. Studies to date may not be pulling in the youth who are in need and who do not have the resources to work with text-heavy interventions or have adequate, stable internet connectivity and updated devices. Investing in the evidence is critical to understanding policy changes that are needed to support youth to access evidence-based mHealth for depression interventions. In summary, these results show the potential for mobile app-based therapeutic interventions to be used in the delivery of mental health services to adolescents and to impact depression symptoms. There are 4 clear questions for future research in mHealth for adolescent depression. 1. Given the differences between males and females in the ways that they experience depression, how does mHealth address adolescent experiences? 2. Given the small sample sizes of studies and the high risk for suicidality, is mHealth for depression a good fit for adolescent population-based studies? 3. Given that follow-up studies have only extended findings to a 3-month period, does mHealth exert benefit beyond usage, or is usage the critical component in maintaining treatment gains? Effects on specific symptom clusters, rather than summated scales, should also be identified. And lastly, given that adolescents are juggling many different demands, what are effective strategies for reducing mHealth for depression study dropout rates? Increasing rates of suicidality and depression are not inevitable and not acceptable. Evidence can help connect this trajectory towards greater mental wellness, resilience, and hopeful living. mHealth for adolescent depression shows promise, as long as we can provide these resources universally, for free, and for any adolescent who wants to take this step in their journey to greater wellness. Thank you for listening.